Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you and the time that you've spent here with us and giving us some time for the Recovery Council to share with you that our path and our journey that we've had in the past 2 years. And it's been a journey. So I just want to share with you a little bit about what we're going to do today. We're going to have the Attorney General's office come up. Attorney General Fry is going to share with you what his office has been doing in the past year with the opiate settlement funds. Then the Recovery Council will talk about how we work, the importance of our work, and then you'll be introduced to Mary Coyne, our Recovery Council coordinator, and she'll share with you the work that we've done over the past 2 years. And then we're going to actually introduce the entire, or most of, our Recovery Council that are here today, who will introduce themselves to you, and then take questions from the audience and hear from all of you, because that is the most important work that the council does, is listen to the people of the state of Maine and where they see the best investment in our funds should be, and which will have the most impact in the lives of our families. So I'm just going to share with you a couple slides before I turn this over to Mary, about the Attorney General. So in one of the talks with the council wanted to share with everyone, which I think most of you here know, the impact, the financial impact that the opiate crisis has on all of us. But let's not forget the number one impact that the opiate crisis had on all of us was the loss of people we loved, and the loss of those people and what they could have been to the world, their moms and dads and sons and daughters that are no longer with us. And we have these funds because, I don't know the technical legal term to it, but we were lied to, and now we have some funds to be able to make sure that this doesn't happen again. That we save lives and people live, and we have prevention, treatment, recovery, and harm reduction in our state to save lives. And I think before we started all this, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Pat Kimball. I am honored to be the current chair of the Recovery Council. I am a woman who had a dad in long-term recovery. I grew up in a home that alcoholism was there. And I spent 30 plus years working in the field of substance abuse and mental health. I am now retired, and in that retirement, I have decided to continue my passion, which is to ensure that people get the services and the treatment they need for a disease that's affecting us all. So thank you for being here today with us. And I am actually, at this point, going to turn it over to Attorney General Aaron Fry.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Pat. I have to, real quick, I never felt more important than I did just now when I had not one but two people looking to find me because I couldn't find the room. So if you ever want to feel important, have to be up on stage and have people worried about where you are. So my name is Aaron Fry. I have the privilege of serving as Maine's Attorney General. You heard a little bit from me earlier, but really I want you to hear a little bit less from me today because I really think that the Maine Recovery Council is doing some really great work, which was the hope, and so I want to make sure you spend more time hearing about some of the stuff that they're doing. But just to reorient, or for some of you who have not been paying attention, orient you to, there have been a number of settlements with manufacturers, distributors, pharmacies, those who have been involved in pumping out very dangerous opioids and not taking responsibility for those impacts that those opioids would have. And so there was litigation that was filed by the state of Maine, by a number of counties and municipalities here in Maine, as well as school districts, to hold accountable these manufacturers, distributors, pharmacies for the deception that they engaged in that really fueled in a very serious way the opioid crisis here in Maine. And so what you see is a number of different, and it's very conveniently labeled as it turns out, so I don't even need to really say them. These are the different entities that we have so far. Again, this is a collaborative of state of Maine, 39 municipalities and counties here in the state, as well as school districts that had litigated. There's one that you don't see here, but I'm sure that you may have just heard about it in the news. It was actually one of the initial settlements that was announced, but still has not come to fruition, and that is Purdue. So you're probably all following that although it is not actually the largest driver in terms of the amount of product that they put out, they were the largest driver in really juicing the opioid crisis over a period of decades, right? In fact, the state of Maine had a settlement, along with other states across the nation and DC and the territories, had a settlement with Purdue back in 2007 that said, hey, knock off your bad behavior, we're going to penalize you for that. We have data that shows after that settlement in 2007, 2008, they juiced it even more. They really put it, not just one foot on the gas, they put both feet on the gas to see if they could break through the floor to pump up opioids. So even though they are not maybe the biggest contributor by number of pills, they were the biggest driver. That is still in litigation. There was a bankrupt, I mean, not to get too technical here, but there was a bankruptcy because what happened, Purdue, the family that owns it, the Sackler family, sucked all the money basically out of the company, right? It was a privately held company. They sucked about $11 billion out. That $11 billion, by the way, we're not actually quite sure what that is worth today. One of the benefits of the economy that we've had over the last several years is that that money is probably growing. So what happened is the Sackler family wanted to seek some sort of protection through the Purdue bankruptcy, right? They put Purdue into bankruptcy. They wanted to use that bankruptcy to protect their assets, protect their individual family members. There was a settlement to do that, but very recently the Supreme Court had held that that was not an appropriate means of doing so. That's very basic. It's a longer opinion. It's worth reading if you have the time. Needless to say, we are back at the drawing board, and so the state of Maine, the litigating subdivisions here in the state and across the country, we will continue to work to not only hold Purdue financially responsible, but this is an opportunity perhaps to find some measure of accountability from the Sackler family as well. At least they should be concerned about that because that's where we're at. And I know myself, my colleagues, we're not going to stop until we address the biggest juicer of the opioid crisis. These are, and by the way, let me point you to the most important part of this slide. That's at the bottom, so I'm sorry in the back if you can't quite see it. If you go to the Maine Attorney General website, right, so www.maine.gov/AG, if you stop there, there's a really nice picture of me. It is my only professional headshot that I've had as AG. It's nice. You can stop. You can look at it. You can be like, yep, that's him. Then you go to /opioids. That's going to bring you to a page that has a lot of information about what is going on with the settlements, with the litigation, with the Maine Recovery Council. And it's where you will find some of these numbers. In particular, there are two different Excel spreadsheets that are available. One that shows what is estimated to be coming in over the period of time that these settlements are going to be flowing in, as well as an actuals spreadsheet which shows what has hit Maine so far, right? So that's important for two reasons. One, it does allow for public transparency about what all of the settlement dollars that are going to be coming in, folks can plan, right? So not only the state, the cities, the counties, the school districts, not only can they plan because they know what they're going to get, but everybody can be looking at that to have some transparency about when it's coming in and how much. And additionally, the actuals, because what is intended to come in, sometimes there's a little bit of a variance as to when that money might actually hit the accounts. We do the best we can to keep it pretty much up to date on our website when we receive the actual checks that are being distributed. You'll notice, by the way, so you might have heard me mention earlier that this is about $230 million at present that's going to be coming into the state of Maine to be distributed amongst the Maine Recovery Council, certain qualified cities and counties, and the Attorney General's office. So I mentioned it's over 18 years. As you can see, there are different time frames that exist within those settlements. So you saw all those settlements earlier. They are all different parties, right? So Johnson & Johnson, Janssen, right? They are different from McKesson, or they are different from Walgreens or Teva, right? They are all different in terms of how we have constructed these settlement terms. So you will see different amounts of money. So one example is Johnson & Johnson, Walmart, that's 1 year. Like all of what Walmart was responsible for in the settlement that was achieved was all in 1 year. You will see that on the Office of the Attorney General website. If you go to get through my picture, get to the /opioids, that's where you will find a bunch of information, including what monies are coming in, on what schedule, into where. So to the Maine Recovery Council, to the Attorney General's office. I'm from Bangor, so Bangor is one of the 39 political subdivisions. Penobscot County is one of the 39 subdivisions. So you can see what is expected to flow there and what we have for information about what is actually going there. This is so far what it is. So I mentioned the Attorney General's office. Let me just give you percents. This will be a reminder for some, maybe not for others. If you think about that $230 million, this is how it's broken up. 50% flows to the Maine Recovery Council. Pat and the team and the council will do the best job of telling you about what they do and how they do it and why they are constructed in a way to really be responsive to the needs of the state in all of its different components when addressing the opioid crisis. So 50% flows to the Maine Recovery Council, 30% flows to 39 qualifying towns and counties. So it's every county, and the remainder are municipalities in the state of Maine. So 30% flows directly to them for use in their communities. And then 20% of the overall number will flow through the Attorney General's office, where whoever the Attorney General is going to be over the next 18 years will have the ability to work with the legislature, work with the executive branch, work with the Maine Recovery Council, work with cities and towns, hopefully to make sure that there is a responsive application of these limited resources, right? So, you haven't heard me say limited yet, but it's a good opportunity, but it's not going to last, right? I mean, even with 18 years, that money is going to stop at some point in time, and it is intended to be supplemental, right? This is not intended to be okay, legislature, you can walk away, okay, Governor Mills, you can walk away. It is intended to be supplemental resources that we will all be able to benefit from in helping address the opioid crisis. So I'm going to start first. I'm going to go in an opposite direction. Committed, in fact, I have to approve the MOU. It's in my email box right now. As you probably all know, there were 5 low-barrier shelters that were at risk of losing funding. The legislature and the governor came through with at least $2.5 million a year over the next 3 years of the $3.9 that they needed per year. So there was a gap. I talked with Brendan O'Neill, who, by the way, I have a great team. I have Brendan O'Neill. I have Haley Taranko. They are 2 wonderful people at the Attorney General's office. Pat's going to introduce Mary, I hope, because otherwise I'll feel bad that I didn't, although I just said her name. So they're doing really great work, and I'm not going to pretend for 1 minute that I can do anything that I do without the support of a really solid team behind me. And I have that, making sure that Maine consumers, that Maine citizens are really taken very good care of. So anyway, I confirm that this was an okay use. $1 million is going to be flowing at least. They'll have the ability, the Maine Housing is who it's going to be with, they'll have the ability to use it in a way with the 2.5 per year that's already been appropriated by the legislature. And so that's number one. There was $3 million that went over last year, it's still being used, to the Office of Behavioral Health for a number of different programs where the funding was expiring and there was nothing else behind it. So these were programs that individuals were relying upon, but the federal grant had either dried up or whatever the original purpose of the grant had changed, and so that money went away. In working with the legislature in identifying that this was a need that was not going to be able to be filled with the resources that were available, I was able to direct $3 million from what the Attorney General's office receives to help make sure that those programs are made vibrant for those individuals who are seeking the doors that they were seeking for recovery. The Pine Tree Institute, this is a much smaller program, but I'm really excited about it. So the Pine Tree Institute, it's a small institute down in York County. They had some success at doing a program over the border in Portsmouth to try to align different actors to directing resources in a way that best addressed the need for their opioid crisis in, I think it was like Portsmouth, and I can't remember what other towns. Anyway, they had already started some conversations with towns like Kennebunk and Kennebunkport, and I think there were some other municipalities in York County, and they were just trying to figure out how to facilitate the conversation, but they didn't have the money for it. They didn't have the money for the actual facilitation of that conversation. And so I saw 2 opportunities there, right? One, on a micro level, being able to facilitate a dialogue between parties that had resources that they wanted to spend, and so that could happen effectively with that facilitator, Pine Tree Institute being somebody who had done this before. But the second thing is using AG dollars to make sure that the spend by the county or municipalities or other actors could go 100% to the crisis. Because again, it wasn't just going to be opioid settlement dollars. This is other municipal county dollars and nonprofit dollars that may be applied. So this was a way to make sure that that conversation about how could they do this in the best way that was going to be based in evidence-based, it was going to make sure the conversation was going on. Really excited about that. It really wasn't that expensive, so it's exciting. $3 million to expand the options program. You've all heard about the options program today. It's doing tremendous work. I'm excited that there's more conversations about expanding it even more. But last year, I worked with Gordon in the Office of Behavioral Health to go basically double the size of the options program, I think is what it was. And that money continues to flow. You've heard me make the pitch. I want to make the pitch again, though, because I'm really excited about what opportunity this presents for two reasons. You heard earlier about the center that has been that is being founded through the University of Southern Maine, through the Catherine Cutler Institute. The purpose of this is really a larger version of what I described for the Pine Tree Institute. This is using Maine's premier research institution, right? Using our university institution as a center to do two things. One, it's going to be available as a resource. In particular for those qualifying political subdivisions, so counties and municipalities, to identify different evidence-based programming, identify how money is working when it's applied to the opioid crisis, try to provide the technical support. Again, this is the idea about making sure that 100% of dollars over here can be used 100% for that purpose. The best use of the AG dollars here is to provide that technical support. It'll cost it's a carrot, not a stick. So it's something the center will be available if folks want to use it to help identify what's going to work for their populations and how to work with others. Great. If they don't, that's fine too. But it's important that resource be there because my office has received calls from some counties, some towns, just asking, well, what are you doing with this money? What should we do with this money? Do you have ideas? So the people who are going to be in the best position to be like, hey, we do, and we can help you implement them if you want to do them, that's going to be through the Catherine Cutler Institute. Here's the second thing, and I'm in some ways more excited about this, but I don't think that's fair to the first thing because I'm excited about that too. The second thing is it's intended to generate information that's going to be available to everybody about the state of the opioid crisis, what interventions are working, are not working, how monies that are being spent are actually having the effect that we hope they're going to have, or learning that you really shouldn't throw good money after bad. There is a lot of information that's going to be generated that will be applicable to all of those who are acting in this space, right? And so that's a pretty broad group because that should be everybody acting in this space to address the opioid crisis. Right, so sure, it's going to be great for my office. It's going to be great to the other entities that are receiving opioid settlement dollars. It's going to be great for the legislature. It's going to be great for the governor. It's going to be great for nonprofits. It's going to be great for families, communities, and individuals who are trying to figure out what is their place in confronting the opioid epidemic and getting us on the other side in a way that we can all feel confident that we're moving in the right direction. So I will make another plug for this. In your packets I didn't bring the demonstrative this time, but you all have your packets. I'm sure you're going through that material. You saw a really nice, colorful flyer that described the center with a QR code that allows you into a survey to talk about what you're experiencing today. I was really excited because Lindsay's here. I'm actually looking at it right now. She's going to be running this clinic. She said that folks had already jumped on and were starting to provide answers, which means we today are already starting gathering information that we hope will be turned around and available to all of you to really address the opioid crisis. I've gone way further than I intended to. Thank you, Pat. This is Pat Kimball, by the way, since she did introduce herself. She's the chair of the Recovery Council, and she was very kind to me once. I want to be kind back to her. When I was in private practice in Bangor as a defense attorney, I worked with a number of individuals in criminal defense, in child protection, the parents, state represented parents, who really were just trying to find a way to get help. Pat would take my call. She ran Wellsprings in Bangor, and when nobody else would take my call because I had a client that I just couldn't figure out how to do the right thing by them and get them moving in the direction that they so desperately wanted to move in, I couldn't get other people to return my call, but I could get Pat to return my call, which is why I'm so excited that you're going to hear from her and that she's working with a dynamic group of people on the Recovery Council who all feel the same way, by the way. Yes, they will take your call and make sure that we do well. Thank you all, and thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. I will tell you, after 30-some-odd years working in this field, there is never a shortage of opinions of the people in this group. So that's why Lindsay's phone will be bound up, because I know you all have voices, and I know you have experiences to share, and you have opinions, so that's what we're hoping. All right, thank you. So I'm just going to go quickly through my slides so we can get to the meat of the presentation, which is Mary Coyne. I just want to refresh people who the council is. The council started in 2000, in April of 2022, with 15 members. I think we actually met in November. I don't know why it says April. Anyways, we're meeting for about 2 years. We have a 2-year term. We have a 2-year term, and we can stay for 2 terms. So the longest anyone on the council can stay is 4 years. So we're coming up on those 2 years, and those are all appointed positions. So again, those are the people who appoint. They come from various groups. The members of the council, they're a diverse group, which makes them wonderful to deal with, because when you look at a problem, they see it from different angles, which is important to see from that. And then, of course, these are our principles in which we try to go by as we do this work. As we started this road, we learned that we couldn't do this without the help of a staff, and needed a coordinator to help us go down this journey. Because technically, we are a small foundation with funds that need to get out to where they need to go in a responsible way. So we decided to spend a little bit of our funds and hire a recovery council coordinator. And I can tell you, we found the best, which really makes me happy. So I'm going to ask if Mary Coyne can come up at this point and share with us her work as a council coordinator.
Thank you for the wonderful introduction. My name is Mary Coyne, if you haven't picked that up already. It is an honor to serve as the coordinator and a bit of a crash course in a lot of things. As my role, and as the coordinator, as Pat mentioned, it's a lot of things. It includes everything from preparing meeting materials, researching best practices, to developing processes and overseeing our grant application, which I'm sure many of you have questions about, and I'll have more information on that later. I also regularly attend opioid learning groups, and this spring went to Atlanta with Gordon and a couple others to attend the RX Summit, and that was an amazing experience for me. Gained an incredible amount of knowledge and colleagueship from others who are in my same position in other states and who are navigating this for the first time as well. A bit of information about what the council's been doing. The first year of our activities focused really on developing processes, learning the responsibilities, and understanding who the council is and how this group will operate over the next 18 years. This included learning about opioid abatement efforts and funding activities that are currently happening across the state. We invited state and national organizations to come share some of their strategies and their efforts. And that really highlighted for us the critical gaps in funding and the areas of need that exist. In its first year, the council also held an in-person public hearing, which I'm sure many of you attended. We heard directly from individuals and organizations about your needs. We also published a survey to listen and learn directly from you all about how you would like to see the council's settlement funds used, as well as how we should prioritize our funding. I'm going to highlight a couple things in that survey. We heard from over 560 people from Maine who shared, among other things, how they would like the council to see these opioid settlement funds used. The themes were pretty clear. It was support, treat, and connect people to the resources they need, both now and in the future. Within a month of publishing this survey and holding the testimony, the council both established not only its funding priorities, but also voted to allocate nearly $9 million towards opioid abatement activities and projects in all 4 of its pillars. In prevention, the council voted to allocate nearly $3 million to support youth prevention programs through the Peter Alfond Foundation and the Maine Youth Action Network, both wonderful programs run by wonderful people, along with direct flexible funding to whole family service programs through community action agencies. In harm reduction, we voted to provide unrestricted funding to support the existing certified and operational syringe service programs here in Maine, as well as money for a startup program in the next year or 2. The council allocated a total of $2.7 million for those harm reduction programs. In treatment, we spent nearly $3 million allocated towards the startup of 1 new detox facility in Androscoggin County, support for the opening of a new detox facility in Knox County, as well as a regional planning grant for Franklin County. And last but certainly not least, we voted to provide just over $500,000 to open a new recovery center in Piscataquis County. And now every county in Maine will have an operating recovery center. Yeah. Nope. That was wrong. Thank you for the feedback. The next year, the year we're currently in, the council received, again, feedback from the public hearing and survey, and that led to a set of priorities for future funding initiatives. At the beginning of this year, we began developing a fair and equitable process for our next round of funding awards through a 2-step community grant process. In the late spring, we published a letter of intent for organizations and individuals to submit their proposals and request up to 2 years of funding for programs and activities related to harm reduction, treatment, and recovery support. We also created an ad hoc prevention group, which is in the process of establishing our prevention priorities. And once we have those established, we will also put out a prevention grant. The council's letter of intent, which was open for submissions until the end of June, once again highlighted for all of us the depth of need and also the breadth of work happening across the state. The council received over 200 submissions for new and ongoing projects from across all 16 counties, and the council is now in the process of reviewing and evaluating those letter of intent submissions, as well as determining next steps in our application process. The council developed evaluation criteria for that first step, and will continue its discussions regarding the grant application, including how it will be evaluated over the course of the next couple months. As you can see from this proposed timeline, our goal is to select recipients of this first grant award by the end of November, when our current council's term ends. And I encourage anybody who has applied or is interested in the grant to please go to our website and sign up for our listserv. Any information, all of our work, we'll publish that there, and you'll be sure to know what's happening. And as the council moves through this process for the very first time, we're constantly reminded that perfect cannot be the enemy of good, and I remind them of that. And so while dispersing our funds has taken more time than we would like, that I'm sure all of you would like, the council is dedicated to creating a process that's thoughtful, intentional, and will be sure to save the lives of Mainers now and in the years to come. I can tell you no one on this council ever loses sight of why this funding exists and the role we play in the process. So before I turn things back over to Pat and the full council, I also want to highlight some of the extraordinary work being done in our counties. I will also note this slide is outdated, so this is not current, but does provide a really nice snapshot of what some of our municipalities are doing, and again, the wonderful work being done with these opioid settlement dollars. And the council looks forward to supporting more partnerships, as does the Attorney General's office, in the future with our subdivisions. And with that, I'll turn it over to Pat and the council.
So as we all know, nothing ever goes to plan, and the plan was that the council is all going to sit up here and look at you and state questions. But what happened was we're told we can't have 15 people up on the stage, so we're gonna do what we always do in the council. We'll do Plan B and we'll make it work. So what I'm going to ask is, we have members of the council here plus members of our team. And I would like them to briefly introduce themselves to you before that we take questions. So we can start down on that end. Is this on?
I don't need that. You don't need it. I don't need that. Can you all hear me okay? My name is Todd Brackett. I'm the sheriff in Lincoln County. I was appointed by the AG and represent some of the local subdivisions.
Need it?
I don't know if I need it. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Benjamin Mann. I'm the Deputy Commissioner of Finance at the Department of Health and Human Services, and I was appointed by the governor to serve on the Recovery Council.
He's also the treasurer. Did you say that?
Good afternoon. I'm Betsy Fitzgerald. I'm the retired manager in Washington County, and I represent the subdivisions.
And she's the secretary.
Hi, everybody. My name is Courtney Gary Allen. I'm the organizing director of the Maine Recovery Advocacy Project, as well as a person with living experience of drug use, both in myself and in my community. And I serve as the co-vice chair for the Maine Recovery Council.
Hi, everyone. Way more people than I expected. I'm Chastity Toole. I'm a person with lived experience and am a harm reduction consultant that specializes in rural Maine. And I was appointed by the Speaker of the House to represent the harm reduction community.
Hi, everyone. I'm Keena Thakrar. I'm an infectious disease and addiction medicine physician and also the PI for Project Dharma, which is a federally funded harm reduction grant. And thanks for being here.
Hi, I'm Paul Vinsel, emergency physician and addiction physician. I was appointed by the Attorney General. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Representative Lydia Crafts. I serve House District 46, which includes Damerscott and Newcastle. I'm also a clinical social worker.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Everett, and I'm the president and CEO of the Opportunity Alliance in South Portland, appointed by Speaker Ryan Fecteau, and I chair the Program and Grants Committee. I think that's it, right?
You chair.
Where am I?
Hi there. I'm Liz Blackwell-Moore. My pronouns are she, her. I am the director of public health for Cumberland County Public Health Department, and I was appointed by the subdivisions, and I also am the chair of the ad hoc prevention work group.
There you go. I'm Gordon Smith, the State's Director of Opioid Response. I'm one of Governor Mills' 2 appointments, along with Ben Mann, our Deputy Commissioner. And last but I think 13, maybe we have 13 or 15.
13 made it, yeah.
13 of 15 members, which I think is wonderful. And last but not least is number 13.
Thanks, Gordon.
Lucky number 13.
Right. Hi, I'm Miles Willett. I'm a person in long-term recovery, someone affected by the opioid epidemic. I'm also a clinical supervisor at an outpatient facility representing Aroostook County. Thank you all for being here. Like Chastity, I didn't realize there were so many people behind me. So that's awesome. We want to hear from you, so if you folks have any questions, which I know Pat is about to ask, or so I'll ask, please ask away.
If you'd hand the 2 mics to these 2 people over here, because these are part of our team, not technically members of the council, but members of our team.
I'm Haley Tranko. I work with the Attorney General's office, and I just help keep the council administratively running.
Oh, she underestimates herself.
I'm Brendan O'Neill with the Attorney General's office, and that's about it, I think.
He keeps us in line. The 2 members who aren't here with us today, one is Bruce Nodden, and he is not here today because he's in another room doing a workshop, so he cannot be with us here today. And unfortunately, Eric Small could not be with us either, but those are also members of the council. So I have to tell you a quick story. I didn't realize how many people actually listen in on our meetings because they're all public and they're all Zoomed. All day long, people have been coming up to me and introducing themselves to me, saying, "Oh, you don't know me, but I watch you on the Zoom." So Brendan pointed out that this is what it's like to be an influencer, I guess. I didn't know you were all that interested because, trust me, my family doesn't watch those YouTube videos. So This is your opportunity to ask questions or to share with the council what you ask questions of what you learned today. Give us some feedback into some of the things that you've seen that we do. And this is your opportunity, because this is what this council likes. They truly respect the opinion of the community, and we are opening it up to the floor for you. Yeah, the mic is, there it is. Is there a question? Right here.
Can you pass this down?
A number of hours were spent figuring out what the right balance of appointment of the council was, and I'm curious, some of that was thought to be there might be factions or coalitions that build. Has that been the lived experience of the commission thus far?
Anyone want to answer that?
That's a really good question, because there's two physicians, there's people in all walks of life here. And I've been amazed that that has not occurred. We all have different opinions, but I think we all respect each other. And what we try to remember is each one of us wants to save as many lives as possible, and that's what we're here for. And so when things get a little tense, people are all able to step back and say, wait, we're all here for the same thing. So I think anyone who's watched the meetings will see that there's some disagreement, but that in the end, we all work together.
I think it was very well said, Dr. Wenzel. Thank you. One of the people that introduced themselves here today was somebody who has experience seeing councils like this throughout the United States. And he said what he realized in the councils is the passion. And sometimes with that passion comes conflict, because we see it. It's not just that we're looking at an issue or researching something. It is the passion of the people that are there. And sometimes that can get a little bit of a heated conversation, but that's okay. Because in the end, we know the mission is the same, and that's to save lives. And we work it out. So it is different.
Just real quick, I actually want to point out Representative Adam Lee. I failed to earlier. Representative Lee was one of the attorneys working hard in Maine for political subdivisions, for counties and municipalities, to make sure that we were holding all of those manufacturers, distributors, pharmacies accountable, and we continue to be working with our clients on that. And so I neglected to point out the hard work that he was doing. He actually might have done more work. He might have done more work than I did. He had to you had to go to each different I could benefit. But I mean, he was working hard as well on making sure that there was good balance and on making sure that these dollars were. So I wanted to highlight that we have one of the attorneys in the room too.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Compliments are hard, but take them. They're well said. Question right here.
Can you speak to the range in size and funding amounts of the different programs that you've awarded funds to so far? I guess mostly I'm more interested in the smaller projects in terms of thinking about community providers, towns, trying to wrap their head around what sort of projects could be funded. Thanks.
So the question is, if you're asking us, again, the municipalities are a separate piece. I can answer for the council, and anyone here can do that. So for the council, we allocated $9 million in that first round in December. And I think the smallest amount was, what did the SSPs get? 75,000 a piece a year for 2 years. And that was the smallest amount that we did. Up until the largest amount, which would have been, was that Piscataquis the largest? No, the detox beds, which was, how much was it? Numbers guy. 1.5 million. And what we've discovered, again, remember we discovered things along, as we're reviewing the 200 plus letters of intent that we have small amounts requested and large amounts. And we really have to, as a council, look at that as to how we're going to dispense that. But I don't think we have said at any point that some amount is too small or some amount is too large. We know we have a budget. We have to live within our budget. We don't want to overspend, but we don't want to underspend. We want the money out there. So, and we have approximately 10 million a year without going into details. Isn't that right, Ben?
Pat,
Give or take.
Yeah. I wanted to elaborate on that just a little bit because the council has really is really concerned about our small nonprofits that don't have grant writers, they don't have CPAs, they're frozen out, they can't possibly apply for federal grants. I mean, Dr. Delphin Rittman's not here, but I mean, it's just, they're tiny and they have like 1, 2, 3 people. So that's why, number one, the letters of intent that some of you submitted, that was intended to be a very low barrier process. You know, 8 or 10 questions. What do you want to do? Who are you? 350 words. 350 words, describe your project. And now we'll go back, and we didn't want more than that because I think it's public record now how many were submitted, right? We've said that on the public record. 210? 221? 221, a lot. Anyway, and those are all being looked at now, and then some of these organizations will be invited back to submit a full application. But that was another part of the process to really respect that we really wanted this to be low barrier, that don't spend 6 months on that because your chances might not be very good. I mean, there's a lot of interest in this money, obviously, but I just want you to know that we do talk about this frequently, that we want everyone to have an equal opportunity. And as Courtney's a passionate defender of our small organizations, and I like to think that we all are.
Courtney, and then I'll take a question from the audience.
And Courtney, I don't know what Pat was talking about being disagreement and advocacy. Do you?
I have no idea. We had this moment together where Gordon and I looked at each other. We were like, what are we talking about? No, I mean, I think at the end of the day, we all play different important roles in the grand scheme of the advocacy movement and the movement to address substance use in Maine. I just happen to play that role. So I also just wanted to build on real quick. I think you were talking specifically about the size of the organization, which Gordon spoke to really well. I also want to talk about the size of this money, right? So like, there's a lot of interest in this pot of money, and we're going to receive, it is a lot of money, 130 million across 18 years, I believe, maybe a little more, 230 across 18 years. But that's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of everything that we need, right? So we just received almost $90 million in requests. So I just want to remind everybody in the room that we still need to continue to advocate for more money, and that this money is not going to be enough money, right? We still need to be asking our legislature and our federal partners and our Governor Mills to continue to invest in this money and to not use this money as a way to say, we got it, guys. They've got it over there at the Maine Recovery Council, right? So, yeah, and I know that all of our partners in the room care about this issue and will continue to invest in it, but just want to remember that in the grand scheme that this is a little bit of money and a large problem.
Thank you. There's a question back here, and then I'll take this one. Right there, sir? You got a question?
Yeah.
Can you stand up?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've been in mental health since 2019. Working for an agency. I then left that agency and got further involved in the recovery centers. We got 22 of them. What is going to happen with that funding? Do you know yet?
With the funding that we did, particularly to the Piscataquis County one?
Well, it's Oxford County,
Correct.
Andrew Scoggin, I believe.
So I think I'm going to let Gordon answer that question because there was a bill in the legislature that's going to help recovery centers as well. Of
What was
course,
the LD number, Courtney? Is your bill? 1714. They did, the recovery community did an amazing job on this bill, and it passed, and the governor signed it. And it's going to take a portion of the marijuana revenue tax and $2 million a year at this point, and starting next July, that will be a sustainable funding stream for the recovery centers. Now, which is amazing, because we didn't have a sustainable way to continue to fund a growing number. Now, it's still not enough. If you spread that among 21 organizations, it really isn't enough. But I believe Sarah, Director Squirrel, was standing up back. She said, conveniently left, I think. But I do believe that the Office of Behavioral Health, using our federal funds and other revenues, will also, we don't intend to not continue to use some of the existing sources of funding that were used. So the governor's very committed. We think we wouldn't be doing $500,000 in Sangerville, Maine, for a recovery community center in a county with 17,000 people spread over an enormous region, larger than most of the states east of the Mississippi River. If we didn't believe that these things make a difference, people can drop in, we can do recovery they don't do treatment, but we can do recovery coaching, we can give people naloxone, we can do a lot there, and it helps break down stigma, we think. So at least for the next 2.5 years, we're going to do everything we can. The centers also have to do some of their own fundraising. They shouldn't, look to the state to fund every single penny of everything that they're doing. But you look at places like the Portland Recovery Community Center and the barn. I stopped at the barn Saturday morning. People were there at 7 a.m. And they do such fantastic work that the small investment we've made in these places, what we get back is 100-fold more. So we are very committed to them. The legislative action on 1714 was huge, but we're going to continue to use all our other funds as well and keep as many of them going with as much money as possible. Thanks, Brad.
I'm going to take this woman here, and then, do you want to say one?
I just want to clarify that the state funding for those recovery centers and the Maine Recovery Council are completely separate. So just, yes. So just so you're aware.
And if I can just add one thing, I just want the audience to hear that the legislature, while a separate entity from the Maine Recovery Council, hears the importance of the recovery centers and the meaning and value that those play. And it's illustrated by the fact that we were able to allocate some of the tax revenue from cannabis, because anyone who knows, it's really hard to secure that funding. So I just want to applaud the community who showed up to advocate for that, because the legislature also does hear this room and this state and the action and advocacy behind it. So thank you.
There's a question here, one there, and then one here. The woman in the black shirt, then out there.
Thank you. Thank you to the council for all your work and all that you're doing, for sure. I can't imagine that it was not easy to navigate as initial funds were coming in and while you're figuring out how you're going to put out letters of intent and whatnot. I also can imagine that resulted in some interest building up. Can you speak to if any interest that builds up on this, does that roll into future funding available back into the communities, was my first question. And then my second one, just real quick, was any plans to bring in a research partner to evaluate effectiveness of programs that you're funding?
To answer your first question, I'm Benjamin Mann, I'm the treasurer. The money that has come in so far is an interest-bearing account. I don't have the exact figure, but it's around $500,000 that's accrued for the balances that have come in. It's complicated. You can't just prorate that out over 18 years because the funds have been front-loaded, so we're getting significantly more funds in the early years than we will in the out years. So we've received more interest payments today than we will in the future, but it is certainly a not an insignificant amount of money that we've already generated just from the principle of the settlement dollars that are sitting in the bank account for the Recovery Council.
And we will be partnering along with the Attorney General's office with the Cutler Institute in regards to doing a dashboard and evaluating the programs that we're funding.
Right. I heard that part in the PowerPoint about Cutler working with people that were receiving funds to report back to the communities as to what they were doing with them. That includes effective.
That includes the Recovery Council work, yes. Matter of fact, we were just talking about that today, Lindsay. Yeah, with that, and that's part of the MOU is that we're to have a dashboard. So thank you. There was one person here, one there, and then one there. Up back? Yeah, I hate to, right there. I hate to point. I'm sorry for pointing. My mother's voice in the back of my head. Don't point.
My name is Christina. You can call me Tina. I moved to Maine about 4 years ago, relocated from Texas, where I used to practice, and I have been practicing here as a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. In the last 9 months, I've gotten heavily involved in recovery work. Was ex-waivered prior to the, removal of that requirement. I think I speak for everyone in Franklin County when I say thank you for the $400,000 allotment that I noticed. And I will admittedly, I'm in my infancy of learning about policy and how I can affect change in that way, funding. So maybe I'm a little bit out of line, but boy, we really need a lot of help relative to the population. We have a lot of addiction and diversion and recovery, all of this work to do. Not enough therapists to go around, and my work is primarily medication management. So I wonder if any of the funding, and I apologize if I missed it, maybe some consideration needs to be given to recruitment. Rural Maine was appealing to me. I felt called to come here. Texas was didn't really align with some of my ideas about recovery and such. So I don't know, has any thought, funding for recruitment, bringing more skills and providers?
So we're under the guidelines of the Memorandum of Understanding, and part of that Memorandum of Understanding is to look at workforce development, which would recruit, hopefully. We've had a discussion. There's no definite plans, but and if council members want to speak on that, we know from experience from all of us that we know there's a shortage in the workforce and that we need to do something to recruit people. I mean, you'll hear Gordon say, they opened a new detox somewhere and they can't find staff to do the detox. So what good are the beds if we can't find staff? So we understand that. Are there any definite plans in place at this point? I don't know, but any member of the council, if you want to answer that, or I know that's a passion of Miles.
So we have had, Mary and I have had a couple of meetings with some of the schools and colleges on workforce development. That's all they've been right now is meetings. We're still, most importantly, we wanted to try to get the letter of intent and grant application going so that we could get everybody to be able to apply for this money and everybody have a chance. But we do understand that we need clinicians and nurses and CRMAs and providers and everybody else, peer recovery coaches, and it's huge because, again, I'll reiterate what Pat was saying. If we want to open these places and there's nobody to staff them, then what is the point? So it is a passion of mine, as well as Bruce. He's not here. So it is something that is in the works. So hopefully we can figure out something going forward for workforce development. So thank you.
Courtney, quickly, and then we're going to take a question.
I was trying to pull up the exact language of our priorities, but I can't seem to find it quickly enough, so Mary might have it off the top of her head. But I also just wanted to highlight that the council went through a process where we prioritized different strategies underneath 3, soon to be 4, pillars: prevention, treatment, recovery, and harm reduction. And under the recovery pillar, there is a strategy that we prioritize around workforce development, including like investing in ideas would be like such as investing in scholarship money for people in recovery to go to become CADCs or, workforce development to bring people from away to Maine. We're so glad you're here. We have well, I lived in Texas for a long time, so welcome home. Anyways, so hopefully I haven't seen all of the applications. I'm currently not scoring in the recovery pillar, so hopefully there's some really nice ideas in that recovery pillar around workforce development. So just wanted to highlight that for you.
Thank you. This woman right here has a question.
Yeah, thank you. Whoa, sorry. Once the money is disseminated to the various counties and municipalities across the state, what assurances does the council have that those funds will be used for what they're intended to be used for and not for the other many large needs that counties have?
So
Potholes or...
This council has no authority over the funds that municipalities get. But he can probably answer it better than me, but we don't have any authority over it.
The terms of the settlement agreements all require the money be spent on those purposes by the municipalities and counties that receive the funds, as well as the state and the Recovery Council.
So here is my encouragement. If you live in a city or a town or a county that got money, pick up your phone or write a letter and say, what'd you do with my money? Because they have a responsibility to answer that.
I have a follow-up question about that. But what if they don't? Like, what if, yes, okay, the lawsuit says that you can't, but what if they actually still do? So there's been examples of this. There's been examples of this in other states, rural, I'm not going to talk about it, but potholes in police cars. Do we have any accountability mechanisms? And maybe it's a question for the Attorney General.
It is. And you know what? I'm actually going to let you have him answer it offline because I just look at the time. It is 2:30. And so I know people have places to go, things to do. Is there any burning question? I will be here if you have a question that you want to ask or other members of the council. I appreciate very much your time that's here and thank you very much. Keep watching.